What's going on, sports card hobby family? We are back again. Another day, another sports card and collectibles video. How is everybody doing?
Yes!
I did get a fresh haircut, but I also got too much sun at the pool looking a little lobstery. But hey, what can you do? Guys, if you're new here, you're looking for just about daily sports cards and collectibles content, you have come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button down below. We will keep the videos a-flowing. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. Yesterday had two live streams that were really fun. Had a kind of a different crowd for each one. DPZ and Rob, Sports Card Therapist, joined me for the first one. We were talking about consolidation. Both of those guys have consolidated their collections into larger things or different things. So I thought that was a good talk just to get the conversation a-flowing. Also, Flipping Steve announced his national giveaway winner on Off-Centered last night. It was fun. It went for a little bit over 2 hours. We were having trouble getting people to answer the trivia questions correctly, but we did have a winner, and it is Mark Sipe. So congratulations to Mark. Exciting times. We're all looking forward to the national coming up. Also, got to give a huge shout out to today's video sponsor. Big auction starting today, July 3rd. Hake's Auctions has a monstrous summer auction that is starting. And you might be wondering, like, what can I get at Hake's Auctions? A huge variety of stuff, and that's one reason why I really like Hake's. You've got sports cards, you've got comic books, you've got action figures, you've got video games, you've got all different things. You've got presidential buttons, historical currency, all these different things attached to these auctions, which is great. Hake's been around since 1967. I will put a registration link in the video description as well as in the pinned comments. It starts today, so take a gander. Make sure you register so that if you want to bid on something, you are ready to roll. All right, friends, we are going to talk about cards that have been falling and a couple that have been rising, but we're going to do it a little bit differently today. We're going to focus on athlete index as opposed to just breaking down individual cards. So we're going to use card ladder indexes to look at this. Now, before I get started, keep in mind this is not representative of all the cards of these players. It's a variety. It's a batch of cards, so you take it for what it is. Of course, sales data can be funky as far as, comps here and there and whatever. So we always take this with a grain of salt, but just given the number of cards that are in these indices, we can try to get an idea of kind of what has been happening. And we're doing a 2-year look back. An important thing to remember from a 2-year look back is we're going to July 2021. All-time highs for a lot of these cards, not all. Some are setting new highs, but for many cards, it was March, April 2021. So if we're seeing a downward swing, this is coming off the back of an already downward swing that started in kind of that March, April timeframe moving downward. So we're looking at July data 2021 to now. So just wanted to keep that in mind as we're looking at this. Let's start off with the guy that really, you could argue that this guy has the most effect on sports cards today as a whole than any other player, given the number of cards that he has in circulation and the popularity of the player, and it's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, there are a lot of huge Michael Jordan collectors. The one thing that's great about Jordan is he's got such a huge variety of cards that you can buy a $5 Michael Jordan card, a $1 Michael Jordan card, and you can buy Michael Jordan cards into the millions. So there is perfect variety there for everybody. Whereas if you compare to Mickey Mantle, yes, you can get some low-dollar Mantle cards, but it's just different. He doesn't have the variety. He just doesn't have the years and years and the multiple sets and the inserts and all the stuff. And so Michael Jordan represents kind of that popular athlete that has a ton of cards and variety. So if we're looking at his index according to the card ladder data, and in this index there's 1,754 cards. Keep in mind that each graded version of a card counts as one. So that's not 1,754 individual cards. It's the 86 Fleer, PSA 8, PSA 9, PSA 10. But I like that though, because just because it's the same card, there's different percentage gains and losses on each one based on grades too. They can be different. It's not as if the 8 has done exactly what the 10 has done and vice versa. So 1,754 cards in various grades, different cards, different grades, etc. Negative 17.85% over the last 2 years. And I think that this just speaks to how hot Jordan cards got over the pandemic with the Last Dance documentary. That was kind of the first boost. And then, of course, as we got into 2021, where a lot of high dollar Jordan cards change hands, and there's a lot of high dollar Jordan cards that have not changed hands that are probably more expensive now, some of those coming out of collections and being sold for all-time highs. So it's just kind of interesting. The Jordan market is so diverse because you've got the high end, which is doing its own thing. You've got the mid end, you've got the low end, and everything in between. So there's a lot of variance with all of this stuff. But Michael Jordan, if we're looking at this kind of as a whole, according to Card Ladder, negative 17.85%. And I think it begs the question for any of the athletes I'm going to talk about, is it time for buying? Is there a buying season? And for me, when I look at this, if I see something, down 50% and it's a player that I like, an iconic player, then it's kind of like, okay, maybe I need to kind of pick my spots. Maybe I should take a look at this player's card market. Is it a buying time for certain cards that I think might be a little bit undervalued at this point? All right, so that's Michael Jordan. Let's go to the other guy that people debate as the GOAT. It's LeBron James. LeBron James is rounding out his career, we think. I mean, maybe he'll be 60 and still playing basketball. The all-time scoring leader. His cards obviously mega hot over the last few years. With the pandemic, he had the benefit of actually having playing days associated with his cards and winning a title. He won the bubble championship, the pandemic championship, if you will, with Anthony Davis. So LeBron James has been kind of on a roller coaster, but his stuff went skyward over the last few years. Now, if we do the 2-year look back, we're at a negative 43.71%. Hey, buddy. There are 1,078 cards in this particular index, so you've got some variety here, high end, mid end, low end, etc. And so negative 43%, I think that probably a lot of people that are collectors of LeBron James, investors, speculators in LeBron James, are starting to look back at certain cards and saying, maybe I want to take a shot at some of these. We've talked about this. I've talked about consolidating up recently, and a lot of the talk about consolidating up is because a lot of the really high-end stuff has moved down pretty dramatically to where you're like, okay, well, maybe this is going to get to a point where it's feasible. So I think a lot of people, whether you're on the low end, mid end, high end for LeBron James, his card prices are down quite a bit from where they were 2 years ago. Keep in mind, that's July 2021. That's not off of his all-time high. So it's probably even lower on many, many cards. In fact, it is going to be a lot lower if we were looking 2.5 years back from all-time highs. So I do think a lot of people are saying, all right, what's the deal with LeBron James cards? Maybe I'll take a look. Next up, the ultimate prospect, the guy that went absolutely bananas. And also, guys, I will hit on baseball cards as well, so hang with me. Luca Doncic. This was the guy that went bananas in fall of 2019. I remember it well. I remember when those base prisms went like this and the silver prism, all the Luca stuff went bananas along with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. But Luca's stuff, 2-year look back, negative 62.82%.
You're kidding! Judge.
728 cards in this index that we're looking at. So man, 63%. That is, wow. Now, a lot of people are going to say, hey, look, this guy was hyped to the moon. He hasn't done anything. You've got guys like, Giannis. Now you've got Jokic that have won titles, MVPs. Luca, what's he done? What's he done for me yet? Nothing so far. Exciting player, but he plays on a team where there's question marks. Now, Kyrie Irving just committed to go back and play with the Mavs. Do they just need a little bit more chemistry to get some things going there in Dallas, or is that never going to be a fit? They also signed a player back that I thought was a good signing, Seth Curry. They got Seth Curry back, who was great for them going back a couple of years. So we will have to see if Luca can get over the hump. The league just gets better, though. We've got Wemby coming in, and I know some people are like, Wembanyama, whatever, like this guy's never going to pan out. But you've got a bunch of just young talent in the NBA to match with LeBron and Steph and the rest of these guys. It's just an extremely talented NBA. Luca was kind of that hot prospect, but does his stuff continue to fall where you see it at a point where you're like, maybe it's time to take a shot at some of these more rare cards that are just moving like crazy down the mountain in price. All right, next up, baseball fans. I told you we were going to get to some people that you would be interested in here. Mickey Mantle. This is such an interesting thing for me because when you look at Mantle, and all I've heard over the last few years is just people buying into Mantle. I remember at the National going back a year or two, maybe it was 2 years ago, a dealer telling me he sells 20 Mickey Mantles for every one Willie Mays card. And of course, many will say, hey, Willie Mays is a better player than Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle is just such an iconic figure in baseball lore. And over 2 years, if we do a 2-year look back, keep in mind, this is not off of the highs. It's up 29.67% based on this index of 543 cards. So a decent amount of cards in this index ranging from different years and different grades, plus 29.67%. If you went back 2.5 years and caught the all-time highs in this data, it would be dramatically higher. So Mickey Mantle, even in that down card market, where cards have just been moving downward, Mickey Mantle has been one of those lone players that has not been touched. Actually, he's moved up pretty dramatically, a lot of his cards. So I think that's kind of interesting. I think it's a lot of people that are like, where is safety? Where is safety? And they view Mickey Mantle as safety. You have a lot of people that have moved into Mickey Mantle for safety. Now maybe you can make arguments, is that stuff overpriced? Is there certain Mickey Mantle cards that are overpriced at this point? That's up for the viewer, the individual to figure out for themselves. But this is an example of a player that even in this last 2-year down market has moved upward. We're going to touch on one more player, a baseball player that has also dramatically moved upward, an ultra-modern player, Shohei Otani. Shohei Otani. Now, this index in Card Ladder only has 90 cards, so it doesn't have 1,000 like Jordan or like LeBron, you know, so we got 90 cards, so a smaller sample size, but I don't think that it's any secret that Shohei Otani cards going back a few years, they've gone up dramatically. If you were someone that had bought Shohei going back a few years, what was his rookie year, 2018? I mean, if you've gotten them early, you are killing it. You know, I mean, Shohei Otani's turned out to be the real deal. He stayed healthy. That's the biggest thing. Because if I remember correctly, the first couple years in the league battling injuries, people were excited about him. But again, he's got to get on the field. You got to do the stuff. And he's been on the field doing the stuff. 2-year look back plus 115.33% on the 2-year look back. And again, that is 2 years ago. 2.5 years, if we go back to all-time highs, we're probably looking at a higher percentage rate than that. And again, you'd have to look at each individual card. Otani's got a lot of different cards. We only have 90 cards here represented, so maybe there's some different data out there. But again, no secret that his stuff has moved up dramatically with him really taking the baseball world by storm. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts. I thought this was kind of interesting to do this a little bit differently with players as opposed to individual cards. We got athletes that have moved down over the last couple of years. You got a couple that have moved up. I'll probably do more of these because there's some other ones I wanted to touch on but didn't want to make a 40-minute video. All right, folks, stay healthy, stay awesome, and don't forget to check out Hake's auctions. The big July auction starts today. Registration link is down below. Talk to you later.